My name is Eric Siler, and I'm a professor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We're very pleased to be joined by the director at Nakam, Andreas Kessler. Andreas is joining us from Berlin. Hello, Andreas, and welcome.
Hi, ich freue mich, hier zu sein. Ich bin gerade in Berlin und freue mich, jetzt Teil dieses Filmslams zu sein und bin gespannt, was ihr zu dem Film sagt. So I'm really happy to be part of this. Thank you.
Well, danke, and thank you for that greeting in German for our German speaking students and those who are studying the German language and others as well too. So let's get right into this. Is a really emotional film, and I understand it is based on a true story, and you came about the story in a newspaper. Tell us a little bit more how you came about the story and why you wanted to make a film about this story.
So yeah, basically I read about it like 6 or 8 years ago, and I was really touched by the story because I discovered that those violence still exists. The violin that the young boy in the film played, it actually still exists, and many of other instruments also exist, and each one is attached to a story. And this one touched me kind of a lot, and I immediately felt I wanted to make a film about it, but I didn't know yet how to actually take on this very tough challenge. And then yeah, I started working on the story and thinking about the whole process. I wanted to tell a story about revenge, but also about this conflict of having to sacrifice the only friend that you actually have in order to get your plan go through. And once I had that, I knew I really wanted to tell the story. And yeah, we started the whole production process.
So how much different is this film from the actual story that you found? As a director, you have a creative license to change things and add things. Talk a little bit about the differences between the original story and the final edit.
Yeah, so we kind of also, when the producers Yannick Goetz and Max Breuer joined, we always knew we wanted to tell it as closely to the original story as possible. And so we read all we could find about it and started researching a lot. And all that research kind of, we tried to put it into the script. When Fabien Viraille, the scriptwriter, and I started working on the story, we tried to involve all the people and ideas and information that we got before, try to put all that in the script. So there's a lot that's actually like narrated, or like it's it has actually happened. The thing that we kind of added is actually the pianist. So the pianist, I mean, there's this question whether he played with somebody or not. For me, it was very likely that he didn't play on his own, but he must have played with somebody. And that led to the idea that I wanted to tell a story about a young boy who gets to know an environment and has to also destroy this whole environment. And also with every kind of action of revenge, you also probably destroy something in yourself, although it's very understandable that he wants to do that. But on the other hand, it's very, very tough that such a young boy does it. And that was the idea, to kind of create this metaphor, this pianist who he would eventually have to sacrifice for that. And in the end, it was very important for me to still make him try to save him from that.
Oh, interesting. So that's really interesting, because I was wondering about that, the pianist. So that added that element of a tragedy to this whole piece as well. So how was that received? How was your film received in the screenings that you've had with it?
I would say, yeah, quite well. So we first had our world premiere in Cleveland International Film Festival this year in April, and that was the first screening actually with the film in front of a completely new audience. And And that was very, very interesting. Like people said they were very tense, they were very afraid what would going to happen and everything. But also I felt like everybody kind of could understand the conflict and could understand the emotion behind it and the tragedy the boy has to go through, actually. So until now I was quite happy and got a lot of screenings. Also, for example, in the US, in San Francisco at the Jewish Film Festival, and in LA at the Short Fest, and all overall, I kind of felt, or that's also still my hope, that the message kind of goes through. I always wanted to tell a story about a young boy in war, and that there are, in the end, no real winners in the end. Like this conflict, that violence always creates more violence. I think that's the tragedy about it. And on the other hand, we wanted to really make understandable what emotions the boy goes through. Yeah.
So let's expand on that a little bit, the message. So in the film, it was repeated justice. Mm-hmm. Do you want viewers to walk away that justice was done, or revenge? What message do you want the viewers to have after screening this film?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this, we at some point in the script writing, we came up with this word, actually, because it's all seeking for justice, and it's totally understandable in my eyes that somebody who went through this wants some sort of justice or vengeance, or, you know, like this kind of feeling that he kind of wants to resist and wants to fight against the oppressing power, the Nazis. I think that was very strong, and yet it is so complex that on the one hand he can do that, he gets some sort of justice, but on the other hand it's nothing that completely would fulfill him, because he has this dilemma. I mean, if the pianist wouldn't be there at that moment when the bomb goes off, it would be probably different, but in this case the tragedy is that he kind of has to go through that all alone. And so we realized during the process that this word would play a huge role, also like the questions that the partisans raise: who's on our side, who's on the opposite side, who are the enemies and who are not, and all this kind of thinking. I think that's in kind of every war conflict or every conflicted country very dominant, that suddenly you have very clear sides, and people try to do their best on each side to kind of win. But the question is, in the end of the film, who's the real winner, or is there any winner in this kind of situation, because it's too complex and too hard to to go through somehow.
Yeah, you hit the key word there, winners. There really are no winners in situations like this. Let's turn to the production process a little bit. There was just so many detailed and well thought out elements in the film. And I just want to start with the music. Tell us the name of the song that you used in the beginning and throughout the film that was played on the violin.
So yeah, that was for me a very interesting process, because I never before worked with a music composer, actually, and Ege Ateslioglu, he created all those songs, and this is like called Igor's piece, and like they're kind of named after the characters in the film and everything. So we started talking about it, and we wanted to create songs that would kind of work between the two of them, that would show how they can play, how they interact during the music making. So all that was created, but on the other hand, Ege did a lot of research on Ukrainian folk music and everything. So he kind of took little patterns out of that music and created new songs for the film. Yeah.
Well, that was well done. It was the music. You know, despite the story itself, the music really spoke really well. Your actors, how did you find them? They were just outstanding. Nakam, how did you find him, the SS officer, the pianist? Tell us a little bit about your relationship with these actors.
So yeah, that was a really like also actually interesting process because they had to like check a lot of boxes in a way, you know, like he would have to play the violin, speak several languages and everything, be able to act as a kid who doesn't really have that much of experience or any kind of training. Then the SS officer, he would have to learn Russian for the filmmaking. So he kind of trained on that also. And because yeah, he had to we tried to make him communicate through several kind of languages, and so it was very clear that if like a German officer at that time would go to Ukraine, he probably would have if ever like have knowledge about the Russian language in that case. And then also like we had to find Ukrainian speaking people for the restaurant. So we had so many different kinds of things at the same time. But I have to say, like, it was not like I had some, you kind of check all the actors you can kind of find. And I had some, like, I really wanted to have, for example, the pianist. And he was like #1 on my list, I would say. And often it kind of works because, yeah, they really liked the story, I guess, and also like in the situation they kind of yeah, wanted to do that story that also kind of resonated with themselves in some ways. And I have to say, like, the young boy Anton Grymsky, he really yeah, he took a huge effort. I mean, he learned the violin for the whole process. He went to violin class for 2.5 months before the shooting started, and had to go had to do so many things for this film. So I think he really it's impressive how like self-responsible and everything he was. I wasn't like that at that age, I have to say.
Well, so he actually learned how to play the violin for this role?
Yeah, I myself do play the violin, and yeah, and he is like, and I know like how it looks, so I really wanted it to be credible in a way. And I told him, okay, if you want to do the role, you really wanted to do it, I said, okay, you have to learn the violin. And that's like one of the hardest instruments you can learn. And he said, yeah, I will do that. And then actually we got him like a teacher, and he started like learning playback violin. He would like, so yeah.
Right, so the music that we hear in the film, is that him actually playing, or is it someone else playing and you have it dubbed in?
Yeah, so it's actually the composer playing it with friends. And on set we had like a huge speaker that would make it very loud, and he would hear it and then do the same rhythm and the same movement and everything. And like on the strings there was like some like glue or something so that it wouldn't create any sound. And that's how we kind of did the whole process. So everything had to be pre-produced in that kind of sense. Was quite a lot at the same time, I remember, because then somebody has to turn on the music in the right moment, then they have to turn it off when the officer in the beginning kind of interrupts them and stuff. So that was quite fun.
Right. How long did it take you to shoot this film?
10 days.
10 days? My goodness. 10 long days.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, 10 long days. That's amazing. It's amazing. One thing I really love about the film was how you directed the actors, because in terms of scripting, you don't have to script some of the things like Nakam, just some of his reactions, and you allowed us to gauge people's emotions in the film. And I know that was a deliberate intent. Tell us about the style of filmmaking that you have, in which you want us to gauge emotions in the story without having to actually script it.
Yeah. So I was like very much looking, when I also cast Anton and everybody else, for like for this ability to show emotion. I mean, every actor has that, right? But to show emotion very precisely, like the whole thinking process in facial emotion and expression. And also when we talked about it, we wanted to leave a lot of space between the words. So like everything that would be said shouldn't mean exactly what it was saying, but should mean something else. And that was part of the script writing. But on the other hand, we knew we wanted to create this, because this is where it all kind of started. Also this idea, they kind of make music together. There is something created by that on a non-verbal level, right? So they start playing music. In the backstory, probably they started playing music. They kind of started bonding also through the fact that they would make music, have fun or not fun during the process. Maybe he can teach him something, and something that's not non-verbal kind of gets into those characters. And I really wanted to give them the, when they were actually acting together, the like a big freedom to kind of express themselves. And then like in the end, I think like everybody kind of does that together. I mean, like the character of Jaeger also like gave Anton a lot of hints and tips that he could use, since he wasn't like a professional actor. And I also talked a lot before the shooting with Anton about the role and how I saw it, and most importantly how he would see it, because he's a super clever boy, and he started understanding it very well. And yeah, and so like the whole process during the shooting, we also experimented sometimes. So we kind of let like a lot of freedom to everybody, so they could really kind of feel comfortable at that whole process. And that was very exciting, because one last note on that, I had like another film that I shot on 16mm a few years ago, and there I didn't have a lot of time to really give it to the actors, because you only have 2 takes, otherwise it's too expensive and stuff. And so for this kind of project, I really wanted to give them the most kind of time and place on the sets that they could have, and then really try to create those emotions that were already like there kind of in the script, I think. But then I was very happy with the outcome.
Yeah, your preparation certainly showed. I know we're running short on time. A couple more quick questions I want to get in. But you didn't stop with telling the story after you filmed it. You did some things in editing, and you did a lot of things in editing. But a couple of things I want to point out. One thing I noticed you did was like at the reception, and the SS officer said, "Hail Hitler." You intentionally did not show him doing the salute and saying that. You had some really crafty editing there. And I want you to tell us why you decided to edit it that way. The other scene that you did was when the bomb was about to, when the explosion was about to happen, the boy had his hand over his ears and didn't happen. And then the music came on, and then the explosion happened. Was that like a technical mistake, or was that by design to create tension? So those 2 things, the Hitler salute and the explosion.
So the first one definitely was on purpose, because that was also like referring to your question before, this kind of thing that when this happens, this would remind him of a lot of horrible things, right? And all this could be also shown on his face. And I've seen like the Hitler salute so often in films, and it's shown so often. In my favorite version, I wouldn't show that at all, in a way, because it's nothing I really want to put out there anymore, you know. And then during the editing, I realized that it was very like interesting to actually show the boy at that moment, because it would tell so much more to myself when we see this is why he also, in a general thinking, really wants to do this tonight and pull this attack off. And so that was, and then also with Anton, it was really nice working, because he immediately understood, okay, we can show this on his face, and we can show even more of this character at that moment. And also when, for example, the first scene, like the officer comes in, and we don't tell that, but he knows already that this is something he knows already. Like this is something that creates the trauma and everything, and this is why he is so tense and stuff. And so that all that kind of was part of that process. And then the other question, yeah, that was also on purpose with the music when he does that, and he kind of puts his hands away off his ears. We still suddenly hear the music again. We hear Yegor playing the piano, and we hope suddenly, okay, it didn't happen. He's still alive, and the bomb didn't go off and attack. And then at that moment, from the silence and low-key music, it comes this heavy explosion and destroys all the music. So until then, there's no more music. Well, also, in the end, there's only the violin playing and no piano anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this has been a really good and fascinating conversation. A couple quick questions that came in. I did not mention this film. You did film this in 10 days outside of Berlin, in Germany. And the final question is: do you know what happened to Mika after his story and after the events that took place in the film?
Yeah, it's also like a tragic story in that sense, because he was part of the partisan group, and they tried to join the Soviet forces coming to Berlin, basically. And then once they joined them, they got part of them, but then they came into another conflict with the Germans, and there was like bombings and stuff, and that's where he actually didn't survive the war neither, and his violin was kept and taken to Israel in the end. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for filling in those missing pieces of it. We can go on and on, but I'm glad that you got us started in thinking about important issues in history, and for classes to have further conversation and dialogue about it. You gave some wonderful information, and thank you so much for that. And I wish you all the best with everything else that you do.
Thank you so much for this talk. I hope I could give some answers, and yeah, and also I want to we said we're gonna end this on some for the German-speaking audience, right? So vielen Dank, dass ihr zugehört habt, und alles Gute und danke für das tolle Gespräch. Thanks so much for the talk. Thank you.
Danke schön. And thank you to our audience for joining us for this important and invigorating conversation. For more information about upcoming CIFF events, please visit clevelandfilm.org. My name is Eric Siler. Thank you.